Good evening, viewers and listeners, and welcome to this another edition of Serving the People, brought to you by me, your host, Mrs. Anissa Batiste. Please let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father in heaven, please bless us now as we speak the truth to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that they may know the truth and their minds may be directed in the right path in this whole controversy. These mercies I ask of you through Jesus Christ. Amen. Yeah. And now, my dear viewers, let me remind you that if you wish to contact me, the email address is servingthepeople.ab@gmail.com. Or you may call me. The telephone number is 528-1015. Let me introduce you to my guest this evening. His name is Mr. Cheflon Ballantyne. Cheflon, greet the people.
Good day to you, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and it's indeed a pleasure speaking to you today, and thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. Now, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm happy to be bringing this program to you once again. It has not ceased, serving the people. I know that in recent times there has been a controversy surrounding me and Mr. Ballantyne, where I have been fired by the opposition leader from my senatorial position. He had it revoked through his instruction to the Governor General. And this decision, as he explained in recent times on New Times on Nice Radio, there were some reasons behind it. We want to give you an opportunity through this program to begin to understand exactly what happened. What you must understand is that it all started with a statement that was made by Mr. Ballantyne on Cross Country Radio. And we want you to hear this clip for yourselves. Essentially, however, Mr. Ballantyne made a statement on a program, and the statement, it was said, it constituted an attack on the Roman Catholic Church. People said it was Mr. Ballantyne running down the Roman Catholic Church, or beating up on it, as it were, and calling the Catholic Church a cult. Well, when I heard the statement myself, I disagreed. And the Honorable Lanham Eustace, in a meeting of the Strategy Committee of the New Democratic Party on the 17th of April, Tuesday 17th April, he made a policy that said that no candidate or potential candidate should say anything or make any public statements that are adverse to any religion. No candidate should criticize another religion. And I disagreed with the policy because I felt that in the first place, the statement Mr. Ballantyne had made did not constitute an attack or saying anything adverse to any religion. And because of my protesting against the policy and explaining why I wouldn't follow it, I was fired. But we want you to begin to understand what really happened. And in this program, one of the things we want to do is to let you listen to the clip itself and hear for yourself exactly what was said. So listen carefully.
Welcome back to Cross Country Media. We were joined by Cheflon Ballantyne, and I will allow him to make his opening statement.
Yeah, good night to you, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Good night to you, members of the panel. Once again, thank you for having me on tonight, Joel. Good night to everybody. I don't know if opening statement means I go straight to the issues.
Yes.
All right. In the papers this week, I'll begin with the newspaper. I heard a bit of the comments on my way. First of all, let me apologize for being late. Right? I just coming straight from church.
I did that already for you.
Yeah. The front page of the news. PM condemns satanic cult. People could get injured through them. And below that you have satanic cult creates stir. I read this article. I read this article this week. I read the first article in the news last week, and I find that there is a very strong level of hypocrisy in our society. I do not know who this group is that they're referring to. Based upon the article from last week, it's alleged that the woman who is leading the group declares herself to be neither male nor female, and that she is divine, and she takes an angelic reform or something to that effect. And you have a public outcry from the general public and even the Prime Minister weighing in. But my issue here is that here you are branding a group as being a cult, and the group bears certain characteristics that are shared by the Roman Catholic Church itself. Take, for instance, her alleged claim that she is divine is a claim that is repeated by the very office of the popes of the Roman Catholic Church. They themselves say outright that they are, Pope Leo, for instance, declared that he is God on earth. And the very office, Vicarius Filii Dei, the vicar of the Son of God, is one that identifies the holder of that office as a substitute Christ. So, when we are thinking of the injury that can take place by persons following certain religious groups or doctrines, we must not be hypocritical about it. We look at the evangelical religions as well, and back in the year 1900, they would have been seen in the very same light as this little group is being seen. I'm not endorsing this group. I do not believe that any human being is divine. I do not believe that a human being, in her case, that she's neither male nor female. But the fact of the matter is, what I'm trying to highlight here is the level of hypocrisy that exists in the society. Persons are quick. Why do you brand this group as being a satanic cult in the very first place?
Could I ask you a question? Are you accepting the basic facts as outlined in the story? Were you able to verify?
Well, I wasn't able to verify, but I'm just highlighting a similarity that I see between the alleged facts outlined here and what exists in certain religions in our society. And ironically, the Prime Minister himself, who is a Roman Catholic, should be calling upon the society to vehemently criticize his very own religion, because they bear the same, so in relation to the woman identifying herself, allegedly, as being divine, the popes have identified themselves as being gods and as being divine on earth as well. The issue with our society is this. There's a new group. It is small, fairly recent. It is quickly branded as a cult. 20 years from today, when it becomes established, it is no longer seen as a cult. Currently it bears characteristics to established religions. It is seen as a cult. The established religion is seen as established and well accepted. It is this sort of hypocrisy that I'm highlighting. I'm nowhere condoning if this story as it is outlined in the news is correct. I'm nowhere condoning or promoting this religion. I do not agree with it, but I just want to highlight that level of hypocrisy that exists. And that's what I want to say concerning that. So in other words, the Prime Minister should condemn the Roman Catholic Church as well.
Yes, my dear people, you heard that clip. Mr. Valentine, talk to us a bit about that clip.
Well, that is a clip from April the 7th, Saturday night, April the 7th, on CCR Radio.
Yes.
The weekly program, Cross Country Meets the Media.
Okay.
Where we analyze, sometimes different guests are invited to join the panel, and we analyze different issues making the newspapers for that week.
Okay.
On a weekly basis.
Okay.
And in that particular week, there was a news article which I made reference to in that clip.
Yes.
In the newspaper front page, where the Prime Minister called upon persons to criticize, to condemn, to denounce the so-called satanic cult that surfaced just a week before. Okay. In the same newspaper.
Okay.
You will realize that in that clip, never once did I refer to the Roman Catholic Church as a cult. Mm-hmm. I never referred to the Roman Catholic Church as a cult.
Right.
It is not even my personal culture, is not the culture of my religion to refer to any religion as a cult, for that matter.
Okay.
In addition to that, that statement that I made did not constitute an attack on the Catholic Church.
Right.
It was simply a comparison. You'll notice that I lamented the hypocrisy in the society. I used phrases such as, there's a strong level of hypocrisy in the society, that my issue here is that you brand in a group as a cult when it bears certain characteristics of the Roman Catholic Church. And this was really the issue that was made. A comparison was made between the so-called satanic cult and the Roman Catholic Church. A similarity was found, and I highlighted that similarity.
And that similarity was simply saying that here you have the group being described as having their leader who's a woman, and they say that she's neither male nor female, she's divine, she's a god. And here in the Roman Catholic Church, it is historically stated that the popes see themselves as divine. They call themselves God on earth. So you were simply saying, here the two of them have the similar doctrine or teaching, but you have the Prime Minister condemning one, but not condemning the other.
Yes, and interestingly, like I indicated in that piece, the Prime Minister himself is a Roman Catholic.
Right.
So he should be aware that based upon historical records, the popes in the past referred to themselves as God.
Right.
I gave an example of Pope Leo.
Yes.
And this really was the issue. It was an issue of highlighting the hypocrisy. People are quick to condemn and criticize and refer to a brand, a group, because it is new, it is small. They brand it as a satanic cult when it bears similar characteristics to established religions.
Right.
And that was the basic point. It doesn't constitute an attack or running down or anything like that of a religion.
Okay, that is very important for us to understand. Why is it so important? Because the issue that led to my dismissal started there. The complaint was brought to me by Vice President Sinclair Leacock of the New Democratic Party. He complained to me that Cheflon Ballantyne had launched a serious attack on the Roman Catholic Church. And when I finally heard that clip, which you just heard, my dear people, I couldn't understand why he would describe his words, Mr. Ballantyne's words in that clip, as an attack against the Catholic Church, because it wasn't so. But it went further. When we got to that strategy committee meeting, Mr. Eustace, who at the time of the meeting still had not even heard the original statements of Mr. Ballantyne, he proceeded to dictate a policy. He said at the early stages of that discussion of the meeting, he plainly stated that based on the statements that Mr. Ballantyne had made, with which he was unhappy, he said that the party's position and policy is that no candidate, nor potential candidate, must make any public statements which are adverse to any religion. And that policy came out as a result of the propaganda surrounding Mr. Ballantyne's statement. And I call it propaganda because to date, the facts of Mr. Ballantyne's statement prove that he had not called the Roman Catholic Church a cult. He did not attack the Roman Catholic Church. So then why was the party considering this gentleman's statement, this young man who was a potential candidate for the seat of North Windward for the New Democratic Party because he had shown interest in the seat, why were you now enunciating a policy based on lies that was spread about the statement Mr. Ballantyne made, even though you, the opposition leader yourself, had not heard the original statement? So you say, well, Ms. Batiste, why did you oppose the policy? What really was the issue of the policy? I need to explain that to you as well, and Cheflon is going to help me to find the section in the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines where I want to show you why something is wrong with the policy, and we will discuss this a little bit before we also talk about the issue of representation and religious beliefs differences. Now, Cheflon, I highlighted in my letter to the opposition leader and the members of the strategy committee my fundamental reason for disagreeing with the policy that was laid down, even as I take the time to remind you that the policy came off of a lie surrounding the statement Mr. Ballantyne made. The policy was supposing that Mr. Ballantyne had attacked the Catholic Church. It supposed that Mr. Ballantyne had called the Catholic Church a cult, when in fact he did not do those things, as you yourself heard tonight on this program. So what did I have to say? I want to tell you, my dear people, that when you look at the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, in Chapter 1, fundamental rights and freedoms, it starts off by saying this, and I quote, "Where every person in St. Vincent is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedoms, that is to say, the right, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinions, color, creed, or sex, but subject to the respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest, to each and all of the following, namely." This first part in our Constitution is about to list the fundamental rights and freedoms which we are guaranteed under our Constitution, the highest law of the land. But before it lists them, it declares that every person in the country is entitled to these fundamental rights and freedoms, regardless of the person's race, place of origin, color, creed, or sex or gender, and also regardless of your political opinions. In other words, it doesn't matter who you are, even politically, if you belong to the NDP or the ULP or the Green Party or no party. It doesn't matter if you belong to a party, you are still entitled to the following fundamental rights and freedoms. And we want to zoom in on the protection of freedom of conscience right. It is section 9 of the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I want Cheflon Ballantyne to read for us what section 9 subsection 1 has to say.
Section 9 subsection 1, Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of conscience, including freedom of thought and of religion,
Yes.
freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and both in public and in private, to manifest and propagate his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance.
Thank you, Brother Cheflon. What are we seeing here? The Constitution plainly tells us that every person in the country, regardless of their race, origin, political opinions, is guaranteed the protection of freedom of conscience. And in the protection of freedom of conscience right, the Constitution explains what it is to have your freedom of conscience protected. It plainly states that nobody should be hindered, okay, in the enjoyment of his freedom of conscience. And it explains what this freedom of conscience is. Nobody should be hindered in the enjoyment of their freedom of thought and of religion, their freedom to change their religion if they want to, or belief, their freedom either alone or in community with others, freedom both in public and in private to manifest and propagate his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. So what we're saying here is not only are you free to believe your religion under the Constitution, but you're also free to practice it, and the practice of it also involves public and private manifestation and propagation of your religion. In other words, you're also free to teach your religion and spread it in public. And this goes for political persons as well. As a political person, you are free to propagate your religion. Now, in our country, we have different kinds of religions. And we have religions that teach different things from each other. And in their teachings, they are critical of each other. A typical example, the issue of the Sabbath question. You have Sunday keepers saying, Sunday is the Sabbath, Sunday is the day to be kept for worship. On the other hand, you have Seventh-day Adventists saying Saturday is the seventh-day Sabbath. That is the day we're supposed to go. Each one is a criticism of the other. And it doesn't matter if you're a political person, if that is your belief and your conviction under your conscience to preach that, you are free to do so under the Constitution. And the point I was making, Brother Cheflon, is that the policy that Mr. Eustace was now dictating, saying that a candidate or a potential candidate should not make any statements that are adverse to any religion in public, I was saying that policy is against the constitutionally protected freedom of conscience of the candidate or potential candidate.
Especially, Anicia.
Yes.
Especially coming from a mass political party that is rallying the people to put them into government. to be the guardians of this constitution.
And of the people's rights and freedoms protected there.
Yes.
Because I'm saying, when the Seventh-day Adventist is preaching Saturday is the Sabbath to be kept and so on, which he's free to do under the Constitution, and that's his belief, he's free to preach it in public as well under the Constitution, the Sunday keeper might think that that is adverse to him. He might find, well, that is criticizing him.
Because he doesn't believe it.
Because he doesn't believe it. But the Sunday keeper too is free to preach, well, no, Sunday is the Sabbath. That is his freedom. The point is, none of them should be hindered in the practicing of their religion and the preaching of what they believe. And this does not exempt, or this doesn't say, well, you could do it, but if you're a candidate, you shouldn't do it. No political party and no government should want to have a policy that is against the constitutional rights and freedoms of the people. And that is the fundamental point that I was making in my letter. And I said I couldn't follow such a policy because it was against individuals' rights and freedoms guaranteed under the Constitution, particularly the protection of freedom of conscience. And because I said I couldn't follow it, I disagreed with it, and I would not follow it because it was against the highest law of the land, I was fired. I was fired, I was called rude, disrespectful, etc. But all I did was stand up and say that the policy you are laying down, not only is it based on a lie, because Cheflon Ballantyne never attacked the Catholic Church, never called the Catholic Church a cult, but it is also a policy that is unconstitutional according to the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Section 9, subsection 1 thereof. Now in future, we'll explain further the issue of the unconstitutionality of that policy that was laid down. However, for the next 7 minutes or so that we have, Cheflon, I want us to talk about the issue of representation and religious beliefs differences. Because what the argument that was being made is that as a candidate or a potential candidate in your case, you can't represent people and you can't get votes if you're going to disagree with them religiously. What really is the issue here? Does the difference in your religious opinion, has that hindered you? I knew you were working on the ground before. Has that hindered you in your relationship with the people?
It never did.
Talk a bit about that.
Did. Because the fact of the matter is, when a person wants to go and represent the people, he does not intend to go to represent a sector or a religious group from among the people. In our work that we've been engaged in, we've done food baskets, for instance.
Yes, and you'll see some of the pictures.
Yeah, a simple thing as that. We never subject the people to a test, a religious test, in determining who should get and who shouldn't get.
Talk a bit more about that. When you say you've done food baskets, what did you do? What did you do?
Well, it was a matter of identifying the poor persons.
Okay.
In the last case in December, poor, elderly persons were identified in the constituency, and they were given food baskets.
You gave them food baskets?
Yes. And never once was the question asked, are you a Catholic? Are you a Seventh-day Adventist? Are you a Baptist? Because that was not a consideration. So
your religious beliefs difference from other people did not hinder you from being able to help the people and serve them and represent them?
No.
And that's the issue we are making here. Yeah. Do you recall how many baskets you would have given out during that period?
It was in excess of 25.
You see?
Yeah.
And not once did the young man discriminate and say, well, I'm not giving this one because they are not Tusians like me, or I'm not giving this one because they are Catholics. So you see, this idea that was being presented, Brother Cheflon, that if you preach a different doctrine publicly, which you would do in your church and wherever you go doing missionary work, it would stop you from getting votes.
No, it is nonsense. That's foolishness.
It is nonsense.
That's foolishness, because what people want in a representative is somebody who will be able to assist them in meeting their needs, somebody who will be able to represent them and, speak on their behalf and help them in, accomplishing certain things that they are not currently able to. People are not concerned about what religious convictions you hold. People are not concerned about whether or not you may be critical in your church or on the radio about a particular religion.
There was another area you helped with, and I wanted to touch it before we close, and it had to do with mobilizing assistance to repair and rebuild a home for an elderly man.
Yes. The gentleman, he was in his 60s. suffered a stroke, lived basically alone in conditions that are not suited for a human being to live. And when that was brought to my attention, I mean, I tried my best to get certain persons who are able to contribute to that venture. Question again wasn't asked as to their political affiliation
Or
religious affiliation. It was a matter of getting help for this elderly man. He was not getting any contribution from the government in the form of public assistance or NIS or anything like that. But the primary thing was to get assistance to him to get food on his table and to repair or complete a structure that he had already begun while he was much healthier, to get him out of that terrible condition under which he was living.
And I brought evidence of that to you here on this program when we showed you that house where the roof was going on and repairs were being done and addition to what he had started. And it was all through the assistance and the mobilization of Mr. Ballantyne. And he did these things not asking this man which religion he belongs to or which political party for that matter that he belongs to. He did these things out of the goodness of his heart as a servant of the people, a young 29-year-old man who wanted to represent. But the NDP has made it hard for us to do that now, hard for him to do that now, by making a policy that was based
upon falsehood
concerning his statement and pushing this idea that he can't be a representative or he can't get votes because he has religious opinions that are different from the persons he's seeking to represent. These things ought not to be so, my dear people, and we have shown you some facts already, and we will come again and we will show you more facts surrounding this controversy and explain the truth to you, because we want to be accountable to you, because that is a part of serving the people, being accountable to you, the people who have questions in your minds about what exactly has happened. Cheflon, your last words.
Well, my last words are to those persons who would have supported me, supported my bid to be representative for North Windward. I want to express thanks for the confidence that you showed. I still have interest in serving the people, serving the constituency of North Windward, and of course that is a matter that will be discussed in detail in the future. But the key thing we have to take away from this, Sister Anicia, is the fact that, look, you can't make a policy based upon a lie, and further to that, you can't or you shouldn't engage in making a policy that is unconstitutional.
Well said, and I join with you in that. And now, my dear people, we thank you very much for listening to us today, and we hope that you will continue to look at us, listen to us, and to support this program with your means, if you so desire. You may call me. The telephone number is 528-1015, and the email address is servingthepeople.ab@gmail.com. Thank you again, Brother Cheflon, for being here.
Thank
you. May
you.
God bless you in your future endeavors. We are young, we are strong, and by the grace of God, we will be servants of the people as He sees fit.
Amen.
Until next time, may God bless you.